welcome to meditation. This is just an introduction into what is meditation, what's the aims and what's the purpose of meditation. So it's basically meditation in a nutshell. So what are we trying to do with meditation? Keeping it really simple. In Hindu philosophy, or certainly the Far East philosophy, or certainly within yoga, the mind is just considered as another of the senses, and same as you've got touch, taste, hear and sight, whatever. The mind and thought is just another sense. And we seem to be too attached, so the philosophy goes, the theory goes, to our senses, that we need to draw in from the sense, and not be too reliant on the senses. So what's that got to do with meditation? Meditation focuses on one of those senses in particular, and it focuses on the mind. The aim of meditation is to have a quiet and still mind. So, within the Marychurch Upanishads, that focuses us in particular on the Om or Om, the syllables A or M, followed by the silence. The A stands for the world as we understand it, the awakened state. The U part of the syllable refers to, you can probably relate to this, you've woken up after a night's sleep and it feels like you've slept for ages because you had so many dreams going on. You were still, the thought press was still going there, the ego was still there, the mind was still there. And that's the U, that's the dream state. The M, the M of the Om, pertains to what we're aiming, or one of the things we're aiming for in meditation, and that is dreamless sleep. Have you ever woken up from the sleep where you didn't dream at all and it felt like it just a second had gone by, 8 or 10 hours, if you're lucky, had gone by? Almost like in an instant. There was no ego, more importantly, there was no thought going on. There was no thinking, there was no speaking to yourself in your mind, nothing. And that ultimately, that's one of the aims, the ultimate, or far-reaching aims in meditation. We're trying to quiet the mind of all thought. Now the reason I say it's not the ultimate, there are some that go into transcendental meditation, which is going beyond that. Now what that links into is the Upanishads again, the Marychurch Upanishads, A or M, which is what I just said, what the aim of meditation is, completely empty of thought. Then in the Upanishads it mentions then there's the silence afterwards. And that's very important, and that's more transcendental. I don't want to go too much detail into that. I'm not going to go into any detail of that, other than just to mention that's basically how you're travelling outside your body to far reaches of the universe or other realms. And just before you, in case you are thinking that gets too woo-woo for me, within science there's something referred to as a quantum entanglement. It's in a nutshell something, one particle or subatomic particle, this part of the universe, can be affected in an instant the other side of the universe. And it was demonstrated about 10 years ago, certainly within distances of about 10 miles, that this is actually so. So what can happen in theory, in reality, in physics theory, could be far more woo-wooey than the so-called woo-wooey things. But that's transcendental meditation. Keeping it relatively simple, you're aiming just to still the mind, to keep the brain quiet. And a good analogy they use throughout a lot of the ancient texts is the analogy of your mind being a lake. For it to truly reflect nature and what's around it, and our interaction with nature and the universe, it needs to be calm. And they use the analogy usually of the moon, the full moon at night time, to reflect truly your lake, your mind needs to be completely and utterly calm. No thought, no ripples, to truly reflect nature. But our minds, the Buddha used the phrase monkey mind. Monkey mind basically means you've got this chattering monkey, we always want to be thinking of different things, living in the past, anxiety about the future, rather than living in the now. So that's, the Buddha referred to that as the monkey mind. It's since evolved into your mind is like a drunken monkey that's been stung by a load of scorpions. It's all over the show, rather than it's just another of the senses. Rein the other senses in, pratyahara, and you also rein in the mind, because the mind is just another of the senses. Don't be too attached to the senses. So, with meditative practice, there's no motive except to experience the present moment. There's no past, there's no future, there is just the now. You often say that depressive people live in the past. Anxiety, people that are anxious tend to look from the future, but the calm is in the now. There's a lovely book and a series of lectures by a guy called Sapolsky, referred to as the title of the book, something along the lines of Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, or Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. They effectively live in the now, as a lot of animals, it's believed, do. They don't focus on, I was attacked by a lion the other week, and they don't dwell on it. They just deal with the moment and what happens in the moment. A very good book, a very good lecture actually. So meditation is discovery that the point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. And therefore, if you meditate for an ulterior motive, to be a better person, to be X, Y, Z, then there's an argument that you're technically not meditating, because you've got your mind to the future, a better you. So that's possibly taken to a little bit of extreme, but still accurate. So if you meditate for an ulterior motive, say to improve your mind, then you're looking for the future, and therefore you're not meditating. The goal of meditation is quite simple: to be in the here and now, to divorce yourself from symbols and language, any hang-ups of time and experience the immediacy of the present moment. Meditation is the way in which we come to feel our basic inseparability from the whole universe, and that requires that we shut up. Man, that was a quote from Alan Watts, and it doesn't necessarily mean this shut up, because that's the obvious one. It's here. Shut up the mind, to still the mind. I believe it was Patanjali who coined the phrase, or something of Chitta Vritta Naroda. My Sanskrit isn't very good. It basically means the quietening of the mind, the chitter chatter, the chattering monkey. We're just trying to quiet the mind down as best we can. Because most of us think incessantly, incessant chatter that goes in outside our own heads, our own minds, because most of us, we think compulsively all the time. So that's the aim and purpose of sort of what is meditation. So I'll lead us on to what's often asked, where do you meditate? I think is it the Upanishads or Hatha Yoga Pradipika, or it might be the Patanjali. It's one of the ancient texts, as you would go. This is Indian. So it's a case of you go off into a wood somewhere or into a forest somewhere, and the area has to be. At the end of the day, you can meditate anywhere. Now, in particular, this particular little video section is more on what I class as formal meditation. What most people the image you have in their head, usually through watching telly, rather than I refer to as more the Zen-like meditation, where theoretically speaking, you can meditate anywhere doing anything. Any amount of noise, any amount of distraction. But I'm talking more now the so-called, what I class as the formal meditation. And where to do it? Ideally somewhere quiet. Does it have to be? No. Is it best to be? Yeah, especially if you're starting off. It's keeping it really simple. It's nice, it's a nice quiet environment in which you're in. For some people that's going to be easier said than done. But again, you can meditate anywhere. You can meditate in the middle of a big brass band. If you bear in mind what's the aim, what's the purpose of meditation, the aim is to quieten the mind. In fact, I yank down quite a number of them. The whole point of yoga, just doing your yoga, is your meditation. The whole idea of the tea ceremony in Japan is exactly that. You can take any mundane task, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be a task, it can be listening, it can be your breathing, it can be chanting. Are you engrossed in are you quieting your mind? Are you quieting that chattering monkey? If you're doing that, or even just reducing the amount of times your mind spins off in all different directions, that's meditation. So, where to meditate? Anywhere, really. If it's somewhere quiet, ideally. Does it have to be light? Does it have to be dark? No, it can be any. So where to meditate? Anywhere. You don't need anything special. Hopefully that's covered. How long to meditate for? I've heard all sorts about this. To start off, about 5 and 10 minutes, I've heard people say. How long should you meditate for? And for me, the error in that question is in the should. How long should sex last? How long's a piece of string? There's no, again, what's the aim? But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're new to it, that you're not going to be able to meditate, that you can't control your thoughts. So again, a lot of people say, just try 5, just try 10 minutes. I don't. Just do it for, if you have to be somewhere, then set an alarm. We usually get people say, well, set your alarm for 5 minutes, and then, why? That's just my view. If you have to be somewhere, be at work or something like that, then yes, set an alarm. But otherwise, why limit yourself to any time? So that's how long. How often? Oh, this links in with how long and how often as well. As Alan Watts referred to it, as a famous British philosopher. Highly recommend almost anything of Alan Watts. A very knowledgeable guy. Going off for a tangent now, what was I saying? Oh yeah, don't treat it as a competition. A lot of people treat it as a competition. Oh, I meditate twice a day for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, in the lotus position. What would we do for them? It should be treated more like a medicine. It certainly shouldn't be treated as an ordeal. And again, Alan Watts referred to it. It should be a happy occasion. It should be something that you enjoy doing. It's not something that you endure doing. It should be an enjoyment. How often? Again, how often do you want to do it? How often do you feel the need to do it? Once a day, twice a day? There's no right or wrong answer. Don't let people tell you there are. But just don't treat it as a chore. That's the biggest thing I'd say. It should be enjoyment. It should be enjoyable. You're just trying to quieten the mind. And again, it doesn't have to be formal meditation. Your yoga, your Pilates, your exercise, engrossed in any task where this isn't chattering away is meditation. Again, the tea ceremony, anything can be meditation. So then that leads us on to, how do you meditate? Now this is more from a formal point of view. So, any position where the back is upright and erect. Not stiff and erect, just up and tall. Does it have to be upright? The Buddha himself said no, there are certain circumstances, if you're ill or whatever, then you can do it lying down. There's a famous ancient text, Indian text, if you just Google it, 112 meditations of Shiva, and it should come up. Literally 112 different meditations that you can do. Now the aim isn't to do all of them, the aim really is to run through them, so to speak, if you like, and which one gels with you, and just do that one. And some of them are lying down, some of them are standing up, some of them are seated. Originally, a lot of the postures in yoga in the early days was seated. Most of them were seated. The idea being to meditate from those postures. So the yoga you do, could you meditate from any of those postures? It's idea. So the idea of the spine being tall is to allow the energy to flow. That's one. Again, I referred to Sapolsky earlier in another video in relation to why zebras don't get ulcers. In another lecture, he comments on the fact that when you have a tall spine, it does affect the center of the brain associated with happiness. Just leaving that out there. But within meditation, the spine is erect, the spine is tall. You can meditate standing up, you can meditate lying down. Just so happens most people tend to favour the Buddha's way, which was in a lotus position with a certain hand removed in a hand position. It doesn't have to be. Again, you can be doing anything and meditate. But for me personally, I like to be sitting in the hero pose, Virasana, something similar to this. I like I've got one here today, a cork block to sit on because I like to feel grounded and connected. Do you have to be? No. And just a relatively relaxed, doesn't want to be a strained position. You may be at the stage of your meditation where you're doing it for quite some time. So, you can sit any way you want. You can sit in a chair, or you can sit in the lotus posture. The easier you find it to do. Or you can just sit cross-legged, just normal cross-legged position on a cushion. Now the point of this, as I said, is that you keep your back erect. You're centered and you're easily balanced. And you have a sense of being firmly rooted to the ground. Now let's just talk now about the props. Do you need the props? No, don't need any props. What are the props? It could be the clothes you wear. Never forget the effect of the mind, the placebo effect. The mind's very powerful. So if you prefer having, I used to say Indian clothes, the clothes that seem to go with meditation, fine. If you want your beads, breathe in, breathe out, and you move the bead on every breath. Breathe in, breathe out, move a bead. It's tactile. One of the senses is occupied. So there's less chance, theoretically, the hypothesis goes for your brain to start going all over the show. Your posture, it's quite tactile because you're usually aware of it. That's tactile. Okay? So that's one of the senses taken care of. Playing. Now that's twofold. Quite nice to listen to. I think some people think it's annoying. But every so often, maybe every 30 seconds, every minute, you might hear. And the idea of that is also, if your mind has wandered and you started following a thought off at a tangent, every time you hear that, bring yourself back to what it is you're focusing on. So that's auditory. It might just be music chanting. You might want to chant some music. It can be gibberish. It doesn't matter. Again, there are those that says, no, it matters massively what you do, what you chant. For me, it's just the sound, it's the vibration. You can chant and feel the vibration in your body. I usually do a little bit of rocking, to be honest with you. And there's also a centre of the brain that's quite calming on the brain. What else? Incense. Sometimes like to have incense. You don't have to have any of this. Again, you can be doing anything and meditate. But some people do like I do. I like the incense. So your senses of smell, which is probably one of the most repressed senses, is the sense of smell. Have you ever smelled something that's taking you back to your childhood or something? But anyway, so all your senses are unconsciously active. Tactile, sound, auditory, your chanting, your sense of smell, and also the sense of the mind trying to control it. So, you can, again, I highly recommend Googling the 112 meditations of Shiva. It goes into more depth, as in 112, to be exact, different types of meditations you can do. Where you're focusing on the breath, you can focus on sound, listening to it, or chanting it. Or you can just be silent, listening to other sounds, just normal sounds of nature or whatever's around you. And I think that covers it for a basic introduction to what is meditation and how do you meditate. You can be any posture you want. I prefer lying down. On the downside to that, if you're particularly relaxed, is you can fall asleep. The aim of meditation isn't to fall asleep. Just remember, ultimately, no matter how you do it, no matter what you choose to do, it's all about, are you quieting the mind, the chattering monkey, or are you stopping it jibber-jabbing around? And I think I've covered everything I needed to cover as a basic introduction to what is meditation, what's the aims. Thanks for watching.